Wilmington recently had a rally to protect immigrants in the state. One of the gentlemen that helped put it together and was there is Ryan Tack-Hooper, staff attorney and legislative advocate for the ACLU of Delaware. Thank you, sir, for being here. There was a lot of talk for a while, I guess it was Brian Townsend who ran for Congress, about making Delaware a sanctuary state. And then he dropped the legislation. And he claims he dropped it because he had already talked to police departments and it was already covered. They didn't have to really do it. Would you have liked to seen him go through with that legislation? Would you like to see him reintroduce it?
So there are a lot of dimensions on which the state can get involved in immigration enforcement. And so I think it's important to talk carefully about what exactly we're talking about when we're talking about protecting immigrants in the state. And so that legislation, I think, would have called for preventing interaction between ICE and local police. And that's a great idea. And it's a good idea for a couple.
All interaction between ICE and local police is a good idea?
Yeah, and so the reason is this. The local police have a job of preventing crime, making sure witnesses are comfortable coming to them. The immigration police have a separate job, right? Their job is enforcing the broken immigration system.
Right.
When you try to combine the two things, you get the community no longer wanting to cooperate with local police. And you get the resources of the local police diverted to immigration enforcement. It's not a situation we want for the important issues, which is preventing crime.
They are two degrees that are far apart. Are you talking about no interaction, that it shouldn't even be put into a database that ICE would be interested in?
So I think let's understand that the context of where we stand right now, right? Under the Obama administration, by some measures, we had record levels of deportations.
Right.
And they were indeed focusing on people who had, for the most part, committed crimes. What is coming down the pike is a plan to increase the number of ICE agents by 10,000 people, to build many new detention facilities, and to remove the enforcement priorities that would have focused on people who have committed crimes.
So what would the ACLU like to see? Do you just want violent criminals? Is that what you're talking about? That to make certain that there's a certain level of criminality before ICE gets involved?
I think our issue is less trying to solve the difficult problem of immigration laws in the United States, and more what role should local and state police be playing in that, and how do we enforce these laws in a way that's constitutional? And so when ICE says, hey, keep that person in jail for me while I investigate, that's not how it works in the United States.
You know, the argument from the other side is going to be, but if you're undocumented and you're not a citizen, the Constitution doesn't cover you.
Yeah, so a couple problems with that. One is just, on its face, it's wrong. In fact, the Constitution does cover people who are in this country. But second, it assumes that the people who are impacted by this aren't citizens. In fact, many of them are. Ernesto Galarza was arrested in New Jersey. He had a Social Security card on him. He's a U.S. citizen. He was detained on an ICE detainer because they didn't go out and get a judicial warrant. They didn't do their homework and make sure they had probable cause. They just said, please hold this person while we investigate. Well, they were holding a U.S. citizen. Right? That's exactly what the Fourth Amendment is supposed to protect us from.
They follow the ICE request if they go to a court and the court says you can detain. That's what happens oftentimes. But you want the court to make sure the court's involved in that.
Yeah, if there's a judicial arrest warrant, that's the appropriate process. That's how it's supposed to work in this country. And so if an ICE detainer is accompanied by a judicial warrant, that's fine. You
had this rally, you had this protest, and we're running out of time, so I want to get right to the main point. And many times people look at these rallies that have happened since the Trump administration got into office and said, they're complaining, but there's no solution. What are the solutions? What are you looking for? So I ask you, what are you looking for?
Yeah, so we actually had specific actions we want the governor to take. One of them is the issue we just discussed about whether we will comply with ICE detainers in this state. We think we shouldn't. It's a constitutional problem. It's a policy problem. It costs us money that we're not getting reimbursed for. We shouldn't do it. It doesn't have to be a law. The governor can, with the stroke of a pen, decide that we're not going to comply with ICE detainer requests.
Like an executive order.
That's right. It's a Department of Corrections policy.
Okay.
The other is that we should not be entering into agreements to enforce immigration law. So our police departments, who many of them know that it's a problem for them if they decide to try to enforce immigration law because it damages trust in the community, prevents them from enforcing our criminal laws.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you being in here too. Ryan Tack-Hooper, staff attorney and legislative advocate for the ACLU of Delaware. When we come back, distracted driving in Delaware, it's become a real problem, so much so that the legislature has become involved. We'll talk about a new law when the Delaware Way continues.